Morning, folks. Today I'm going to be doing a reading from the McAlvany Intelligence Advisor. I've been following this for quite some time now, and there's good info in this. This month it's Terminal Deception, Finding the Truth in a Sea of Disinformation, Lies, and Propaganda. I place economy among the first and most important virtues, and public debt is the great danger to be feared. To preserve our independence, we must not let our leaders load us up with perpetual debt. We must make our choice between economy and liberty, or debt and servitude. Thomas Jefferson. It is the purpose of government to lie to the people the majority of the time. Machiavelli. Tell a lie, tell it often enough, and the people will believe it. Adolf Hitler. Don't you get tired of government lies, propaganda, and phony statistics? Richard Russell, 110-2011. Socialism, an economic system in which the means of production are owned by the government and directed by the government according to the central plan created by the government. Fascism, a marriage of big socialist government and big business and big banks, which advances the goals of the global socialists for world government. Part 1. Financial Disinformation, Living in the Day of the Lie. Introduction. We live today in America in the day of the lie, wherein traditional values of honesty and integrity, of right versus wrong, freedom versus slavery, morality versus immorality, truth versus falsehood, and common sense versus stupidity have been turned on their head. Widespread deception, non-stop lying and manipulation of the facts or truth is not just in the White House, Congress, or the Fed. However, it is rampant on Wall Street and in the media, where virtually everything financial, political, or geopolitical is spun, i.e. twisted, to favor the political left or the financial powers that be on Wall Street, in the Fed, the big banks, or mega corporations. We see blatant corruption, lying, manipulation, deception, and outright theft of billions of dollars on the part of Wall Street's most powerful moguls, think Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan Chase, etc. We see Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke blatantly lying to Congress, the media, and public about the true condition of the economy. Inflation, the bailouts now totaling $4 trillion in 40 months, about QE1 and QE2, and virtually everything else. We see J.P. Morgan Chase illegally manipulating the silver market. We see corporate America hiding the inflation in their products by changing or lying about quantities in their packaged food products. We see nonstop lying on the part of many of our most powerful politicians. We see distortion, fabrication, manipulation, and outright falsification of virtually all economic statistics by government officials and bureaucrats. We see blatant falsification of earnings, balance sheets, bad loan exposures, etc. by America's biggest banks and corporations. We see the Fed and Wall Street illegally manipulating and propping up the stock and bond markets with government or Fed-created funds. We see the political left in the White House, Congress, and judiciary shredding the U.S. Constitution and running roughshod over many of our freedoms. While denying the whole time that they are doing these things, we have seen more people control laws and regulations passed in the past 2 years than during any 2-year period in U.S. history. This environment of lying, distortion, manipulation, and massive corruption, from Wall Street to Washington, from the Fed to the big banks, from the media to corporate America, will bring America down. Think Rome in its 11th hour, and can be easily demonstrated by the following. The worst depression since the 1930s is being called a strong recovery. Part 1. The real unemployment rate in America is not the official 9.4%, but in the real world, i.e., ignoring dozens of government statistical manipulations, unemployment is 22.4% and getting worse. In November 2010, non-farm payroll jobs, not seasonally adjusted, declined by 276,000 and by another 357,000 in December, while the government used manipulated statistics to show that employment in the U.S. recovery is rising. Among other things, the BLS created 30,000 phantom jobs out of thin air in 2010. In March 2010, according to shadow government statistics, the government overstated payroll increases by 366,000 jobs, and SGS estimates that in December 2010, the government overstated payrolls by 640,000. Shadow government statistics believe the BLS overstated growth in payroll employment by about 250,000 jobs per month in 2010, in essence by 3 million jobs. In the last half of 2010, 1.6 million full-time jobs were lost, with 878,000 part-time jobs added, which the government counts as full-time. On January 10, 2011, Fed Vice Chairman Janet Yellen said that QE2, which will create $600 billion out of thin air to support or monetize collapsing bonds and banks, will create 3 million new jobs. Over a year ago, Obama said his stimulus program would create 3.5 million new jobs. They wouldn't lie to us, would they? Meanwhile, real-world unemployment in the U.S. continues to decline. On January 14th, it was reported in the King Report that the total number of people claiming jobless benefits for the week of December 25th was 9,193,838, a stunning increase of 422,523 from the previous week. The government's U3 unemployment number at 9.4%, which excludes millions of so-called discouraged workers who've been out of work for over 1 year, the government's U6 number of 16.7%, which includes those discouraged workers, and the SGS unemployment number of 22.4% based on traditional methods of counting the unemployed. All differ in one important respect. The politically acceptable 9.4% U3 signals a recession, while U6 and SGS unemployment numbers confirm a major full-blown depression. So naturally, the government, the Fed, Wall Street, and the media only talk about and hype U3. But they lie. We are in a full-blown depression today, with massive financial pain spreading across Middle America. Part 2. In the first week of January 2011, Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke lied to U.S. senators when he said the U.S. inflation rate is less than 1%. Consider food, energy, gasoline, medical care, education, airline tickets, commodities, and the necessities of life, i.e., use your powers of observation. And it is easy to see real-world inflation is closer to 8 to 10% or more. Understanding inflation allows the government to overstate GDP and cheat tens of millions of retirees and Social Security recipients out of billions in payments on their cost of living adjustments. An editor's note, health spending rose to 17.6% of the economy in 2009 and higher in 2010, with health medical costs rising 20 to 25% per year. How does that square with Bernanke's 1% inflation? Medical care is only 6.5% of the government bogus CPI calculation. It should be 17.6%. A brief look at the price rise of essentials which Americans need in order to live over the past 10 years shows how dishonest the government's inflation numbers really are. Over the past decade, Homeowners insurance rose 108%. Real estate taxes rose 77%. Heating oil rose 150%. Natural gas rose 63%. Electricity rose 52%. Regular gasoline rose 118%. Medicare Part B monthly premiums rose 143%. Potatoes rose 67%. Eggs rose 93%. Ground beef rose 49%. And bread rose 50%. Do you really believe Bernanke when he says U.S. inflation is under 1%? What do you think? We'll cut it there for now and resume this a little later. Peace.